Time for Health Watch, and we are talking intermittent fasting. That's when you restrict eating to 8 hours or less a day.
It's supposed to help with weight loss and regulation of blood sugar, and including clarity of mind. There's a lot of factors that go into what the benefits are, but could there be a downside to the trend? That's what people are asking. So Dr. Sean Heffron is joining us now. He is a preventive cardiologist at NYU Langone Heart. Doctor, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So there's some new research circulating online. It's got a catchy title, but it hasn't been peer-reviewed. It's about intermittent fasting and heart health. Explain what the study claims to have uncovered.
So they looked at people who had responded to the NHANES survey over a period of about 15 or so years, and responded to the survey specifically about the duration of time that they spent throughout the day eating. And then they looked at those individuals that they could link to a death index, which is a record of people who'd passed away over the follow-up period of the study, and then looked for an association between the time in which the people reported eating and whether they had died or not from any cause, or then from heart disease, cardiovascular mortality, or from cancer.
So then we get these really sort of splashy head-turning headlines, right? 91% increased risk of cardiovascular death if you participate in intermittent fasting. But as you point out, this is very limited. These were not people that were intermittent fasting per se. These were people who self-reported how they ate throughout the day. So can you, because my issue with this, because I was ranting earlier today, is that sometimes us, people in the news, we don't do a very good job when it comes to reporting on science. We sort of go with that splashy headline, but the details really count here. So can you explain, what's your take on the findings? What's missing from this? Because we haven't even seen all of the data. I think the only thing that was released was like an abstract.
Correct. I echo exactly what you said. It's honestly very unfortunate, in my opinion, that this was released as a press release. The findings are incredibly preliminary. As you raised, these people were not in a trial studying intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating. It was their responses to a question, one of many, many dozens of questions about lifestyle. And then as part of an observational study, the authors looked for associations. Now, we get a lot of information from observational studies in medicine, because there are a lot of things that are very difficult to study in the most controlled fashion, which is the gold standard in medicine, a randomized trial. But when you do an observational study, you have to control for confounding variables, and which are other things that could be going on in these individuals' lives, other characteristics that could potentially influence the outcome. And when you look at what this is, of just a basic abstract, not peer-reviewed, not published, you can see that those people who were in the group that were, had restricted their eating period, there are more smokers in that group. There are more men. There are differences in the racial makeup of that group. All sorts of factors that could certainly play a role in the outcomes. And because this wasn't a trial, people are just restricting their eating. They could have other diseases or other conditions, other socioeconomic factors that could have led them to restricting the time in which they ate. So really, nothing that of any clinical relevance can be derived from these findings.
It's an important detail.
Yes.
Really quickly, though, then, Doctor, explain how intermittent fasting works and what the benefits actually are.
What do we know about intermittent fasting?
So we know certainly that in trials or preclinical studies of animals, there is an increase in longevity. That is well established. In relatively short-term studies of humans, because it's not very easy to keep going for a very long time, that there do tend to be improvements in blood glucose in blood pressure, other cardiovascular disease risk factors, measures that are associated with potential risk of
wait,
cancer,
doctor, we only,
radicals.
we only have a minute.
There is some data.
We just have a minute, but I want to make, like, this study hasn't been done on humans. It's just animals.
Well, he said there's some limited human studies. The problem with nutrition and diet is that unless you keep people kind of in a pod and they only eat what you give them over a long period of time, it's really hard to do these studies. But I think the bottom line, as you know, doctor, a lot of people do this to maintain or keep their weight. Is it okay to still intermittent fast?
If someone is open to it and wants to try it, I would not discourage them from it. You know, that being said, how well it can be maintained is questionable, and I counsel patients to adhere to an overall lifestyle of health, which is sustainable for decades.
That's good advice.
Right, whatever you can keep up.
That's right. Dr. Sean Heffron, thank you very, very much.